Football Manager is full of fallen giants, clubs that once competed with Europe's best but have slowly faded into the background. So I've chosen Deportivo La Coruña for this rebuild. When I was growing up, I always remember Deportivo being one of those teams that English clubs hated drawing in Europe. They were a proper Champions League side capable of causing problems for anyone. In recent years, they've been a long way off their former selves, and in the 2019-20 season, they were relegated to Spain's third tier, where they stayed for 4 seasons. Things have improved though recently, after a promotion back to the Segunda in the 23-24 season and another promotion last season. Deportivo will once again be playing in La Liga for the upcoming 2026-27 campaign. My goal is simple: restore Deportivo to the top of Spanish and European football. However, there is a catch. I'm taking the phrase fallen giant quite literally, because I'll only be rebuilding this club with players who are 6'2" or taller. Now obviously I can't change the entire squad in one transfer window, so we will have 3 seasons to make the changes. But if there are still players at the club after that 3rd season that we haven't managed to shift, they will just be sitting in the reserves and not getting any game time. That means we have to perform, because if we don't, nobody will want our players, and if we can't get rid of our players, then we can't replace them, meaning we'll likely have failed before we've even got started. So, can a squad built entirely of giants take Deportivo back to where they belong? Let's get into it and find out. So, first things first, after introducing myself to the squad, we went and checked out our available transfer budget, and I didn't expect much, but I certainly didn't expect it to be this bad. After putting everything into the wage budget, it turns out we're still £2,000 a week over budget, meaning we're going to need to sell players before we can bring anyone in. So I turned my attention to finding long-term targets, and the best way to do that is with good scouts. We currently only allowed 4, so I went and found some better ones to replace the lackluster ones that we currently had. 3 of them signed very quickly, and while we were waiting for the other one, we went and set up our recruitment focuses to try and find some youngsters from around the world who'd not only fit the bill of being good enough, but tall enough as well. I won't show you all of them, but I did this for a few of the European regions where the players are more likely to be a little cheaper. Having checked out the title odds, we're predicted to finish 10th this season, so naturally, I told the players I thought we were good enough for promotion this season, to which they agreed. I then went through the squad and identified anyone who was worth any money and under our height restriction, and offered them out to see if there was any interest in them, which there wasn't. Whether that was 5'5" Luis Cruz, who actually looked pretty decent for this level, or 6'1" defender Dani Barcia, who only just misses the cut-off, but whether it's an inch or a foot, nobody is safe. Unfortunately though, nobody seemed to want our players, and we didn't get a single offer. And before you know it, it was time for our first game of the season, which I must say came round very quick. Maybe it's quicker in Spain, I don't know. These are the tactics I'll be running for this season, some of my own creation, that should work well if you have a good wing-back and a good target forward. Only issue is, we probably don't have enough centre-backs currently to play a 5-back formation, so that is something we will have to try and address. We get off to the perfect start against Malaga as Jose Griguera puts us 1-0 up after 11 minutes after some questionable goalkeeping from Herrera, but it was short-lived as 8 minutes later Malaga pull level after a nice team move. And with momentum in their favour, they scored again in the 26th minute to go 2-1 up, prompting Dani Sanchez to bust out the twist. We did get back level just before half-time as wing-back Caglietta crossed to the far post where Jose Griguera was waiting to head home for his second goal of the game, but just 19 seconds into the second half, Malaga got themselves back in front after some brilliant work from Ochoa. But again, Caglietta's cross to the far post was brought down by Edicheri, who turned and fired past the on-rushing Herrera. So, an exciting first game, but not exactly the result we were looking for. And that was made worse when star player Yereme was ruled out for 3 to 5 weeks with sprained knee ligaments, and we were without our star player for our first home game of the season, but that didn't slow us down. After centre-back Dani Barcia scored a goal Yereme would be proud of to put us 1-0 up, before his stand-in Luis Cruz scored the second in a 2-0 win. We backed that up with 2 more wins back-to-back, firstly beating Granada 2-1, before putting 3 past Zaragoza in a 3-1 victory, with both strikers, Edicheri and Mulletieri, getting on the score sheet in both games. So, after 4 games, we were unbeaten with 3 wins and 1 draw and found ourselves top of the table, albeit Cordoba in second place had a game in hand. We then had the biggest surprise of the transfer window so far as Manchester City made a £4.5 million offer for David Mella, and I've got absolutely no idea why, but we won't ask questions as I quickly accepted it. But before we go looking for new signings, we had Racing de Santander to deal with, and thanks to goals from Villares and Stoichkov, we beat them 2-1. Unfortunately, the win wasn't without casualties, as Danny Barcia had partially torn his hamstring and would miss the next 2 to 3 months. We also got shut down before we could even get a look at some potential signings, as Courtney Hawes rejected our trial offer before Divock Origi and Anthony Modeste agents informed us they didn't believe we had the facilities to sign them. Big man. But in more positive news, loanee midfielder Gregera had won Player of the Month after scoring 2 and assisting 4 in the first 5 matches. We then confirmed the sale of David Mella, which allowed me to bring in my first signing for the club. A young left-footed centre-back, Yaimar Mosquera, on loan from Aston Villa. He's by no means anything special, but we were in desperate need of defenders, especially after that Barcia injury, and being 6'4", he fits the bill. He turned out to be our only signing of the window as deadline day passed without any more signings or sales, leaving us to now fully focus on the season ahead. So, with the transfer window now closed, it was time to fully focus on the football and work with the squad that we had. We continued our good start to the season with a 2-0 victory over Burgos thanks to this goal from Edicheri, followed by 2 more almost identical goals in a 2-1 win over Leganes. That meant we were sat in first place after 7 games played, having won 6 and drawing the other, looking like we were well on our way to promotion. Things then slowly started to turn. Our unbeaten start to the season ended after a 1-0 loss to Valladolid, thanks to this finish from Marcus Andre, before dropping more points with draws against Cultural Leonesa and Almeria. And after the start we'd made, I expected our form to pick up again, but it got worse. After taking an early 2-0 lead against Sporting Gijon, I expected to be back to winning ways. Gijon, however, had other ideas, as Gelibert pulled a goal back in the 34th minute, before Cuenca tucked him from close range, levelling the game up in the 54th. Then, just 3 minutes later, Gijon had turned the game on its head and taken the lead, handing us our second loss. This was then followed by 2 more poor results, firstly conceding 3 goals to Albacete, including this screamer in a 3-1 loss. Mirandes then thought they'd score their own screamer against us, putting them 2-0 up. We managed to get back level twice in this one before conceding this 96th minute winner from Carlos Fernandez as we lost 4-3. So, after what was a great start to the league, we now find ourselves in 9th place after 13 games played, and our defence was about as useful as a chocolate teapot. The fixture scream that just a few games ago was looking so nice and positive with all those greens was quickly starting to look like a disaster after failing to win in any of our last 6 games. We did, however, have a Copa del Rey fixture approaching, in which I'd usually have played a load of youngsters. However, with the state of our form and our confidence in tatters, it was a great chance to boost morale and get a much needed win. However, things got even worse after midfielder Ricky fractured his leg and was ruled out for 6 to 7 months, as well as backup goalkeeper Pereno tearing an abdominal muscle, putting him out of action for up to 3 months. We then drew 2-2 with Sociedad B, prompting a chat with unhappy Villares who weren't happy with the tactics I'd employed, and to be fair, he probably wasn't wrong. So, to solve my problems, I turned to an experienced big man and offered contract to a 37-year-old Anthony Modeste. He certainly isn't the most mobile, but being 6'2" with 16 jumping reach and 17 heading, he should be able to do exactly what we need from a target forward. And the potential arrival of Modeste sparked some life into Edicheri, as he then scored twice in a 5-0 victory in the Copa del Rey over Amorebieta, ending a goal drought of over 10 hours. Unfortunately, that win didn't help our league form, with another 2 losses to Las Palmas and Castellon, and a moment to forget for centre-back Barcia. Up step Anthony Modeste. He scored the winner in a 2-1 win over Andorra, getting us our first 3 points in 9 games, and he was on the score sheet again in a 3-1 win against Quetta. He then made me look like a tactical genius as he scored 3 goals against Cadiz as we went on to win 4-1 and pick up another 3 points. A little slap back to reality then followed as we got knocked out of the Copa del Rey, conceding in extra time as we lost 3-2 to Unionistas, However, we quickly got back to winning ways with Modeste involved again as he assisted Mulletieri in a 1-0 win over third place Cordoba. Then, finally, our final game before the winter break was another tight affair, ending in defeat to 6th place Eibar thanks to a goal from Chelsea loanee Mark Guéhi. So that loss was actually our first loss in 5 games, having won 4 straight and heading into the winter break in a somewhat solid position. We were back up to 7th place, but more importantly, 8 points adrift of the automatic promotion spots, leaving us with plenty of work to do if we were to achieve our goals of gaining promotion this season. So we head into this winter break in desperate need of some quality additions because you saw how quickly things fell apart for absolutely no reason. However, making signings, whether that be transfers or loans, proved way more difficult than anticipated. Obviously, we're limited to who we can actually go for because of the restrictions on height, but finances proved to be the biggest issue when trying to bring players in. We started with a loan offer for West Ham midfielder Mohamedou Kante, which after a bit of negotiation got accepted. He'd provide some quality to the central midfield spot where we were currently short. We followed this up with a chat with Mikel Bro Hansen's agent, who quickly shut us down before making an offer for free agent Per Schurz to provide some more quality to our defence. We also made an offer for Leeds midfielder Sean Longstaff, but they wanted a crazy amount of money, so we quickly withdrew from that one. Things continued to go wrong as the deal for sure fell through, as it turns out I'd missed a vital bit of information when making the offer for him, and it turns out he was out injured with a torn ACL and had been sidelined for over 2 years since originally getting this injury. Outgoings weren't exactly going to plan either, with the only player we managed to shift being a 35-year-old defender, Zemo Navarro, who fetched us a measly 11k. So, a bit of a disappointing January transfer window in the end, but we did manage to make one quality signing at least. Mohamedou Kante had joined on loan from West Ham, providing some quality into that midfield, which the board and fans both approved of. And I can't believe I forgot to show his stats after we'd signed him, which I can only apologise for. Despite January not going to plan in terms of transfers, we certainly didn't disappoint when it came to the football. Our players were looking refreshed and ready to go after the winter break, winning all 4 of our games in January, scoring 9 goals and conceding just 1. New signing Kante had made a great start to his loan spell, scoring in a 3-1 victory over Huesca before getting the only goal of the game against Zaragoza. That meant we ended the month having shot right up the table, sitting in 3rd and just 3 points behind leaders Valladolid. February started off just as well as we beat 8th place Racing de Santander narrowly 2-1, thanks to another winner from new signing Kante. Unfortunately, these narrow wins were signs that we just weren't quite at our best, as we then went on to lose 1-0 to Burgos thanks to this 87th minute winner from Malejo, before dropping more points with draws against Leganes and top of the table Valladolid. We did manage to pick up another win against relegation-threatened Cultural Leonesa thanks to 2 goals from loanee striker Samuel Mulletieri, but it was hard not to look at our target forward as the main reason to us dropping points, as for the second time this season, main striker Adacheri had been on a goal drought, again lasting over 10 hours before netting a 93rd minute equaliser against Almeria. After starting the second half of the season so strongly, it was fair to say we'd had a bit of a wobble. Thankfully for us though, it wasn't to the same level as earlier on in the season. I'd like to say Adacheri went on a bit of a hot streak of form, scoring goals for fun as we beat Sporting Gijon 2-0, but he didn't. Thankfully though, everybody else was chipping in with goals, including this brilliant solo effort from centre-back Comas in a 2-0 win over Albacete, and we followed that up with 3 more back-to-back wins against Miranda's, Sociedad B and Las Palmas, with the latter sending us top of the table for the first time since September. And after all the hard work to get us back to the top of the table, all we needed to do was stay consistent and keep on winning, which of course we didn't do. We did scrape past Castellon with a 1-0 win before dropping points in a 1-1 draw with last but one place team Andorra, and we then comfortably beat Quetta 4-1, giving me false hope that we were back to our best before drawing the next game to promotion-chasing rivals Cadiz. No thanks to some top-quality goalkeeping from Alvaro Fernandez. And Fernandez continued to show his quality in the next game as he flapped at this free kick, resulting in a 2-0 loss to second-place team Cordoba. So, heading into the final game of the season, I was still pretty confident of automatic promotion despite the recent dropped points. We were still top of the league by 1 point and more importantly 3 points ahead of third place team Real Valladolid. With a +5 goal difference in our favour, it would take a serious swing for us to fall out of the automatic promotions places. Or so I thought. So when John Bautista scored the only goal of the game for Eibar in a 1-0 loss, I weren't too worried thanks to the goal difference being majorly in our favour. However, it was quite the shock to see that we'd actually fallen to third, as Spain doesn't use goal difference as their tiebreaker, they actually use head-to-head record, and typically, in our 2 matches against Valladolid, we'd drawn one and lost the other, meaning they'd leapfrogged us on the last day and sent us with more work to do in the playoffs. So, after putting all that work in to get ourselves back into automatic promotion contention, it was pretty disappointing to see it thrown away in the last 2 games of the season. Although I do have to say, after that run of games without a win back in October, November time, it was still pretty impressive to have even got back to this position in the first place. But now it was time to regroup and focus. With the playoffs fast approaching, we still had a great chance at promotion, and we've showed this season we are certainly capable of beating anyone. So, heading into the first match against Sporting Gijon, I weren't exactly sure what to expect, having both won a game in our 2 previous meetings this season. Gijon, however, did have home advantage, and they showed that by going 1-0 up in the opening 3 minutes of the game. We did, however, get back on level terms in the 16th minute thanks to Anthony Modeste making up for an earlier miss, before Gijon retook the lead 4 minutes from half-time thanks to a tidy finish from Nacho Martin. But we weren't about to be beaten easily, as we got back level for a second time after a close range finish from Edicherry. And then in the 66th minute, we turned the game on its head after a tidy layoff from wing-back Caglietta for his 26th assist of the season, as we went on to win 3-2. So, heading into the second leg with home advantage and a 1-goal lead, I was pretty confident of advancing to the playoff final, until Caglietta decided to go straight through Ferreras, giving Sporting Gijon a penalty in the 13th minute. And 13 is unlucky for some, but not for Gaspar, as he converted the spot kick, levelling the tie. Thankfully, right on the stroke of half-time, a lovely pass in behind from Yereme put Edicherry through on goal, and he slotted past Llanes to level the game and restore our lead in the tie. Then, just a few minutes later, the other side of half-time, a poor header from Ferreras presented Edicherry with a brilliant opportunity, which he coolly took for his second goal of the game. But unfortunately for us, Sporting Gijon weren't about to just roll over, as straight from kick-off they equalised, making it 2-2 on the day and putting them back within a goal on aggregate. And they had one final chance to get back level with this free kick. But thankfully, luck was on our side as it hit the crossbar and we survived to draw the match 2-2, meaning we progressed to the playoff final, where we'll be facing Burgos. So, just for reference, in case you didn't know like I didn't, the playoff final in Spain is a 2-legged affair with games both home and away, unlike a one-off fixture like they are in England. The first leg would be played away, which I was quite happy about, as we'd been so strong at home this season, meaning any mistakes today, we'd have a chance to put them right in the second leg in front of our own fans. However, it was us that opened the scoring. Just 90 seconds into the second half, overlapping centre-back Barcia found himself in acres of space and his deflected cross was turned in by Edicherry. And everything seemed to be going our way after this effort from Miguel rattled the crossbar, and then right at the death, while I was busy making substitutions, Burgos had a goal ruled out which I conveniently missed before stupidly skipping the replay, meaning we take a 1-0 lead back to the Riazor. So we're just 90 minutes from promotion and getting this rebuild off to the perfect start. All we've got to do is not lose. Simple, right? Well, it certainly looked that way when Edicherry put us 1-0 up inside 11 minutes after a brilliant cross from Lerero, and then even more so when Edicherry doubled his tally, making it 2 in the opening 21 minutes. Alvaro Fernandez can count his lucky stars after this blunder was thankfully ruled out for offside in the 70th minute, before we wrapped up the result and promotion in the 89th minute, with Quagliata making it 3-0 on the day and 4-0 in the tie. Well, we certainly done it the hard way, but we have ticked off our first goal of this rebuild and achieved promotion back to La Liga. And looking forward to next season, I was hoping for a healthy budget to overhaul the squad and bring in a load of giants. Not the measly 6 million I'd been given. There was, however, 220k per week available in the wage budget, meaning we may be able to get a little bit more out of it. Wingback Quagliata certainly wasn't going to be the easiest to replace after he finished the season with a record of 27 assists and 8 Man of the Match awards. And I'm not entirely sure how, but goalkeeper Alvaro Fernandez somehow kept a record 17 clean sheets. Unfortunately, the lone players left before I had a chance to see the entire squad stats, but this is how the rest of the team looked at the end of the season. The two standouts being Edicheri with 20 goals and obviously Quagliata with 27 assists. Also, a special mention to Anthony Modeste came in to do a job and certainly did that, helping spark a revival when we were at our lowest, finishing the season with 8 goals and 3 assists from 13 start and 13 sub appearances. So, we've started off doing exactly what we needed to do in gaining promotion back to La Liga. Like I said, we did it the hard way after bottling the league, but eventually we managed to get the job done. We've now got the difficult task of building a squad capable of avoiding relegation, as well as replacing some of our shorter players with ones over 6'2". But to see how you get on, you will have to tune in to the next episode of The Fallen Giants. And if you've enjoyed this one, do me a favour, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.